In this video, I'm going to talk to my friend David Orsino, who's a broker and a manager at Remax Premier in Vaughan. David has been in the game for roughly 2 decades, and we're going to talk about the collapse or transition, whatever you want to call it, that's currently happening in the real estate industry. You have agents leaving, finding full-time jobs, looking for jobs, not being able to find jobs. You have brokerages like iPro going out of business, allegedly for doing criminal things. So we're going to cover all of that and much more in this video. I hope you enjoy. Okay. So I'll tell you right now. In my office, there are like two agents that show up. Okay.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
regularly.
yeah.
That's it. I show
Yep.
up once in a while and that's it. So I'm assuming, what's your office like?
So it's interesting, right? I mean, it's I guess we're getting right into it. It's interesting. We have to do stuff to get the agents to come in. Because otherwise it's quiet. July and August, oh my God, there was times when we could go like bowling down the hallway type thing, right?
Yeah,
People were
yeah.
away. So we find that when we do stuff here for the agents, I mean, we're a culture that gathers. We get together, we do stuff together, you know, all the training, all that stuff. But we have to give them a reason to come in, right? And we'll talk about it more, I'm sure. But without that, it can be quiet. I drive around oftentimes and I look at other brokerages and I see zero cars parked out front, or one or two, maybe the manager's there, or maybe an agent, like you just said, right?
It's mostly the admin staff. Come
You're
on.
right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. There's that too. But yeah, it can be quiet, but fortunately, and I don't want to jinx myself, we've got a steady group of agents that show up and they're diligent and they're just here every day anyways, right? So that's good at least.
Awesome. Well, look, the reason for this chat, as always, look,
Yeah,
here's kind of the synopsis of where things are at. So, quick intro on you. The reason why I think you're a very fascinating person is number one, you've been in the industry for I think 2 decades now, right?
almost. Yeah, yeah, just
Yeah.
under that.
You've done different you've been in it through different capacities, but you're very observant. And
Yeah.
the very interesting thing that I find with you is that as a manager and a broker at a brokerage that performs, you have insight in terms of like what is actually happening, right? Because a lot of people can have their opinions, but you actually see a lot of things. Just like I'm at a pretty big brokerage, we have, I think, a bird's eye view that's better than most, especially because right now it just comes down to volume. So you're very interesting to talk to about a few things. So the first thing I want to start off with, just to kind of
Thank you,
warm
by
us
the way.
up, anytime I gotta butter you up. iPro scandal, right? This
Yeah.
is probably something that the public has heard about, doesn't know much about. I just want to know from your opinion, kind of like how do you understand it, the implications for the consumer and agents?
Fair enough. So I mean, there's tons of rumors going around about it, right? So I think everyone needs to like, before they express their opinions, need to pause and, understand that we need to wait for the results of the investigation, which, if I'm not mistaken, should be out fairly soon in the next week or so. They had said at the end of October they'd have the final report. So I look forward to hearing from that. Although the court cases, all that stuff will take forever. But I don't know. My thoughts on it are that it wasn't really greed that caused it. Um, in the sense that, of course, I should back up. Of course, there's greed played an element, but I don't think it was the main element in the sense that I don't know the two broker of records, or the broker of record and the other individual from iPro, but I think they were just, they were using the trust funds with which they shouldn't have to finance the daily operations of the brokerage. And perhaps expansion was too fast and all that stuff. And maybe at a certain point they did get greedy, expecting the ability to refill the trust accounts as more money came in. But then, as we all know, the market tanked and things fell apart, and they just weren't able to refill that account. I'm really, really worried that this is prevalent in the industry, which is a very dangerous thing. And so it kind of scares me in the sense that who else is doing this? Who else has done this? Who else is caught up in this? And we just don't know about it. And the point I want to make is that yes, it wasn't greed, but it was more apathy that did it, in the sense that we have an oversight system, and it's existed for many years, obviously through RICO, through the way we have trust accounts, the trust account rules we have to follow, and all that stuff. But it's almost like they were paper shields, in the sense that we have an authority, RICO, that's supposed to govern all of us, and unfortunately, they're probably vastly underfunded. I remember the audit they did a few years back, and there was a whole bunch of problems. I think most of those problems boiled down to budget. There just wasn't enough money to audit everybody. To have, I think back then they had like 5 investigators. I think they might have 6 or 7 now. That's for the whole province of Ontario. So the oversight is just, it's too light. I think we've shown over the years with all the problems, all the issues, that we probably need more oversight to protect the public. But I don't think I think the bad apples are fewer in the industry than the good apples, let's say. So it's something that's ongoing. We've got to be careful about. Agents need to, take responsibility and audit their own compliance.
And it's funny. So the rumor mill has been, I guess, look,
Yeah.
here's what I will say. I'll take some heat here because I don't want to put anybody in tough spots. But I mean, the rumor mill is already out. I have heard of at least three brokerages
Me
that
too.
are potentially on the verge of being the next iPro.
Yeah.
One of them. Two of the, I mean, with the smaller ones, I'm not as surprised
Sure.
because it's like, they come and go, they get acquired, whatever. But one that's been the buzz lately, it's a pretty big brokerage. I will say it's a New York region. That's about the only thing I'll say. And it's very interesting because it's like you kind of see it. And usually it starts when commission checks are being delayed, not like by a week or two, like we're hitting a month, right? Then you're gonna have a bunch of agents who kind of start whispering like what's going on. And it's like we're talking small commission checks too. Like we're talking like leases.
Leases.
Like
Yeah.
like why are you delaying a lease payout by a month? And why are you chasing your quote unquote accounting department? So it's very interesting. And I think and now you're actually kind of starting to see other agents at like I guess quote unquote better brokerages basically advertise that hey, we're not about to go under. So if you list with us, your deposit and everything is safe with us because you know we're not one of the bad guys, right? So yeah, it's very interesting because I don't know. I think whether greed or not, I think these people ultimately did steal because the second you're financing out of an account you're not supposed to be touching for financing your operations, I think you already committed the crime, whatever that is, right? And
Yeah.
the courts will decide that. So if that's the case, then we'll see. But yeah, okay. So that's kind of like what I wanted to just touch on, just because, again, I think we're going to see more of that, especially as the industry continues to be flat, down or flat transactions and everything else. Just, people are getting exposed, and so are brokerages.
Yeah.
Now,
Now, I had heard of 2 or 3 as well. And I mean, the joke is, my joke is always, well, tell people it starts with an R because that'll capture all the people.
yeah,
It's kind of
yeah,
thing, right? And it's like everyone starts freaking out, right? But we don't know who those are. But there's a difference between iPro in the sense of somebody misusing those funds versus someone closing down because they're just going out of business, obviously, right? So the ones that I've heard about, it seems more like they're going out of business.
right,
Not that
right.
that's any better, right? But it's not a scam. It's not fraud. It's not stealing money from the trust account, at least.
Well, that's exactly where iPro was, call it
Yeah,
maybe a year or months ago, except they took it to the next level out of
right.
desperation, which I'm not gonna say I understand, but I'm try I get it, but I don't. So anyway,
Yeah,
yeah, that's a great clarification point because the big one I've heard of right now, I suspect they were the type that grew very fast, very big, especially
right.
over the last few years, and this is just typical business stuff, right? You can scale too fast, over leverage, and then you're kind of stretched. So,
Exactly.
in more dire news, I mean, let's talk about just the industry and agents at large and in general, and let's just use very big generalizations. The big thing that kind of caused me to reach out is I was reading a very popular Facebook group for realtors, exclusively for realtors, and one of the most, I guess, engaged in topic was how everybody has a job or a side hustle or a full-time job. And I was blown away. And because you can see everybody's names, you know some of the agents, and you're like, hey man, I thought this was like a full-time agent, but the next thing you know, they're like doing all these other things. So I guess from an agent perspective, through your lens, being an agent, let's say 5 years to now, like how has the landscape changed being an agent? And especially now, like, because to me, everybody's saying right now is probably the toughest time that we've seen in a while of being an agent. So I just wanted to kind of get it from your lens. Do you feel the same way or is it something else?
I mean, listen, when the market turned, a big light shone onto the whole industry, right? And we definitely saw the difference between agents who either did well because they had past experience or learned new skills or, adapted to the market. But if we're comparing it to a past period, say 5, 10, let's say 10 years ago, maybe, um, back then you could just hustle and your charm could be enough, right? You could outwork others basically with charm, right? So if people would say if you, oh, he's got the gift or she's got the gift of gab and really able to connect with people and all that is important, obviously. But I find that now in a more modern world, right? We need more credibility. We need and emotional stamina in the sense of all this stuff happening in the world, right? We need more emotional stamina because we operate on our own. We are lonely agents, and so that's where the brokerage can come in and try to get people together, as I said. But it can be lonely, and so I find that in terms of like then versus now, today's market is really the markets they used to reward enthusiasm. Now it's more about rewarding consistency. And what I mean by that is that an agent nowadays has to understand data and psychology, not just scripts like they used to in the past, right? They really need to understand how a seller is. Are they this type of person versus this type of person? They really need to understand the psychology behind it. And they need to be good at managing their time and attention. You're like now agents are, one thing I like to say is that agents are now competing with dopamine, not other agents, right? So we've got, our consumer base is on their phone all the time, and there's so much noise out there, as we always say. Everybody's on their phone scrolling and stuff, right? So it's that's the competition. We have to be able to break through that. So that's why I say, people are competing against dopamine, not other agents. So today, the success I think comes it's a little bit quieter. It's not as it was in the past, right? It's less about grinding. It's more about discipline. It's more about people showing up every single day, doing those tasks that they have to do so that they can succeed. Because it's not just sort of going around talking to people and a deal falls in your lap, right? You've got to be very, very disciplined now, and you've got to follow your process, whatever your process is. But it's important to note that, I mean, this conversation can turn into technology so quickly, so fast, and all that stuff. But, the power of social media is there for a reason, right? Because that's where your clients are. That's where people are spending time and all that. So you've got to be able to address that. And you gain a lot of credibility if you do it right. You can gain a lot of credibility if you do it right.
You know what? That's a perfect segue. So let's talk. I want to kind of address social media, and I think this is where we may get into a bit of a debate. Um, I am more of an old school thinker, and I like social media. I understand it. And
Yeah, you
there's
do.
obviously been a huge shift in, kind of like relationship building and that part of kind of being a realtor to now being an authority, content creator, etc. And look, I'm not going to downplay how much social media has helped me in many respects. Uh, but I will say that I think it has been oversold in terms of its importance. And looking at the way because I'm always thinking through the consumer, right? If you're going to hire me, what value am I going to bring relative to the other guy, right? Because we all kind of blend in like wallpaper. You have 5 agents, 10 agents, we all blend in. So what's this guy going to do different, guy or gal, right? And somebody's going to say, well, I have these many followers and I have this and I have that. And I always think like how effective is that? And usually what I try to do when I'm talking to anybody is ultimately I try to relate how any of these things matter to the end consumer because ultimately that's all that matters, right? If I have 10,000 followers, a million followers, does that really matter? So your take on social media in today's age. I guess the question, the more direct question I'm going to ask you is, do you feel social media is oversold? And by that, I mean, do you think people put too much emphasis? Because I feel right now there's too much emphasis on social media and not as much emphasis on actually prospecting. And that I feel in-person prospecting, whatever method you use, is still how you build 80% of your business. And I feel social media is that 20% add-on that's really nice to have, but is not necessary. And to caveat that, I remember looking at the 2021 list of the top agents in Treb. So it's no secret, for example, back then, and I think to this day, Barry Cohen and his team, for those who don't know him, he's like the GOAT of real estate in Toronto. And most people may not know him, but he specializes very high end.
Luxury stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. This guy's not on social media. Now, he built his business over the last few decades. So he's in this position where he doesn't necessarily need social media. So there's that conflation of like, well, do you need it? Do you not? Because some people are like, well, the best agents are not on social media. And that is also a false kind of view of it because if you're
Yeah.
starting now, it's a completely different. But I do want to get your take on social media in general, just right now and its importance or lack of importance.
And you bring up a really good example, right? Let's, we've got Barry Cohen, for example. We've got others, right, that have been in the industry for a long time. They're doing really, really well. Um, and it could be easy to point and go, hey, they're not doing social media because they're too busy doing deals, kind of thing. And that's absolutely true. We've got, I mean, we've got some of the best agents here. And I'm thinking of one right now, and yeah, she's not on social media much. She's not out there doing videos. She's way too busy just running her business, kind of thing, right? Um, but that's changing, and that's the thing, right? So I've also got agents who have been in the industry for many, many years, and they already see, obviously, the social media of others, and they want to participate, they want to do something because they feel that they're losing out on business by not doing that. And so it's an evolution, but that evolution is moving really, really fast, especially now with AI, obviously. But those things are moving really, really fast, and all of a sudden we're dealing with agents, experienced long-term agents losing listings or deals and stuff to somebody that just showed up on their feed. And it's what it boils down to is, you asked, what has it been oversold? Sure, but it's also because a lot of people don't use it well. They don't know how to use it well. And that makes the big difference. And using it well is not a single formula. Like I see some realtors on social media, and sometimes even I myself, I look at it and I go, oh my God, you're talking about this again, or you're posting again, and you're doing that. And it feels like way too much. But guess what? That's actually working for them. I'm thinking of a couple in my mind that are that's what works for them, right? And then the constant posting, all that stuff works for them. So that's how they get their leads. But you also brought up prospecting. That is always all that's what we do. That our job is to prospect. The doing the deal, getting the listing, all that is sort of the result of prospecting. We're prospectors. That's what we do as real estate agents. That's the only job we should focus on. But what prospecting in this new age is, though, is using social media to get those slightly, warmer leads rather than a cold call, right? I mean, I hear of a broker of record at another company or whatever who's saying that AI is a fad, right? That social media is a fad. Like, okay, so what do you want us to do? Like grab a phone book and start dialing numbers, right? Like I can even get a phone book anymore, right? Um, but that's the sort of mentality that's out there that things don't work anymore. And look, let's be honest, our industry is full of legacy minded brands and people. I work for a legacy brand, Remax, right? Like it's full of people saying they know what they're doing and telling you how to do things just based on repetition, right? No one wants, a lot of people don't want to learn. They don't want to, learn new ways and all that stuff. But as long as you've got the basics, which is, the prospecting, whoever you're calling or meeting or reaching out to can come from different sources. People might want to do cold calling. Some people might want to go door knocking. Some people might want to do videos, might want to get on social media and all that stuff. But it all boils down to getting those leads in. Now, what I do find is that social media done well brings you warmer leads. I started back in 2007, and from 2009 and on, I got onto videos. And that was, geez, you could look me up on YouTube. My original videos, my initial videos are still out there. They're embarrassing. Sometimes I think I should delete them, but like whatever, who
No,
cares?
no, they're
But
staying.
but that's what like sort of catapulted me, and I was doing well. I mean, people were reaching out to me because they already knew me, and I didn't attract the people that didn't like me, which was great. Which means that by the time I showed up to a listing presentation, I don't want to say they were completely sold, but they were half sold. It was a very warm lead. They already knew who I was. They knew what I did. Signing that listing contract was way, way easier, right? But then things shifted in the sense that, back then in 2012, 13, whatever it was, the Google changed their algorithm. So in terms of the ranking of website, which, search engine optimization, all that stuff, which is what we did back then, all of a sudden, with that slight change in the algorithm, my business just tanked. All of a sudden, I wasn't getting leads anymore. I wasn't getting calls because my content wasn't getting pushed out. That was through a website. Now it's social media. So again, we've got to be careful of all these different things that can happen that we're not in control of. We're not in control of our Instagram or our TikTok. It chooses who it's going to show it to, right? So if it changes anything, all of a sudden, uh-oh, you got a problem, right? But I'm a strong proponent in online, social media presence, all that in terms of getting actual leads, getting people to come to you. And again, when they come to you, um, it's a very warm lead. Um, Nowadays, I mean, people, listen, our industry is full of cliches, people
Oh
hire who
yeah.
they trust and all that stuff and who they know. And people don't hire who they know. They hire who they learn from nowadays. That's the important part, right? So if someone keeps showing up and they're learning from that person, all of a sudden they become the top tier expert. And we're seeing it. Our agents, our experienced agents, are sometimes losing listings to someone who's been in the industry for a year or two. But guess what? That person has showed up on their feed, has educated them, has done all that. So this new sphere sort of it lives online. Attention is sort of the new proximity. When we used to have a sphere, and I wanted to build a sphere around Vaughan where I live, kind of thing. Well, attention is that proximity now. It's not, it's no longer just Vaughan. It's just showing up in people's feed and being able to talk to them and teaching them stuff. Educational content replaces like door knocking, for example, because it builds credibility at a scale rather than individual at a time, right?
Yeah.
So
No.
it's that
I
relationship selling isn't dead. It's just it's evolved.
Yeah, I think, I want the shout out to Tom's story. I think if I
Yeah,
was to look at,
love what he does.
yeah, if I was to look at a younger agent that's doing it right, I don't know Tom personally, but I love what he's doing. I really appreciate it. I think he's going about it in all the right ways. And that's kind of like a way you want to emulate. But then I see others who basically go too far down the social media rabbit hole where you're grasping at straws to put out content because you're now on this hamster wheel and you fall in like into audience capture where I just have to put out content. Now I got to put out more personal stuff, more, and that's where I think it becomes a bit tricky because not everybody gives a crap about your personal life, especially some parts of your life are just not relevant. Like I will
Right.
never post about my personal. I'll I'll post the odd thing here and there,
Like
but
I saw this video the other day of some guy who's like changing tires on a car, and I was like, why is
oh
this
yeah,
guy?
yeah, stuff like that. But I want to just one thing I want. This is for the consumer. I want to kind of give them my thought about how I look at social media and what they should be looking at with agents. So for example, I think Instagram is a great it's a great platform for social proof. So that's kind of like I think should be kind of used as the resume where, and I think it's also the most common platform that people check. So for example, I lost the listing earlier this year, and there was probably many reasons why I lost it because they already had a friend that they wanted to hire, but they brought me in because one of the siblings said this guy's really good. He's referred, he lives in the neighborhood. Everybody loved me, but ultimately the decision maker wanted to hire their friend, so they hired their friend. But throughout that whole experience, they're like, "Oh, well, your Instagram, is not whatever up to date." And I kind of looked at it and it's like, you know what? It was kind of like a dumping feed. It's like dump a bunch of nonsense. And now I basically have somebody that's helping me. Just it's kind of like a polished version of what I do on a daily basis. And that's where you can see my deals. This is where you can see kind of like the more polished side. For lead generation, TikTok to me by far is the most incredible piece of technology that's out there. And
Agreed.
back to what you said, there's one thing people take for granted is people on TikTok know you. You don't know them, but they know you. So when they call you, it's like, hey, I want to list my house or I want to buy something. When you meet them, they know you. You don't know them. So it's mostly an interview for them to see if you like them and you want to work with them. But on your side, you don't have to sell anything because they're already sold. So I've done a few deals from TikTok and my experience has been great. The ones that have surprised me, I have a friend that's done a bunch of deals off Twitter, and I can't believe it because that
Oh
is
well,
like
yeah,
that's like a minefield of just like how do you even do anything there? But it works. And then YouTube, I think, is second to TikTok, or for some people, I think it might even work better than TikTok.
absolutely
YouTube's great. What I like about YouTube is it's a place where you cannot fake your subscribers. You can't buy, like on Instagram, you can go and buy 1,000 or 5,000
right.
subscribers or whatever followers for like $100 or something, right? So a lot of agents will fake it, but on YouTube you can't fake it. So I think that's kind of like the validation point to see if you have any sort of authority. But that's kind of like my very high art, like overarching view of the entire thing. But I do agree with you. It helps, but I still think, for example, in 20 years, the top agent will be like a Tom Story. And there's going
Yeah,
to be no
good point.
agent in the top five that's not going to have a social media presence. Whether it was because of social media, that's still, we'll find out. But
Chicken or the
anyway,
egg type thing.
yeah.
But
Now,
listen, you
yeah.
you you brought up, a bunch of good points in there, right? Like you're I see you on TikTok all the time now, and you like your personality has to shine through, and it does, right? Like before, like, I remember I had reached out to you, whenever it was last year, and I'm like, let's grab a coffee kind of thing, because I met you on TikTok, because I saw you on TikTok, and I liked what you had to say. What I learned from you was that, you're very analytical when it comes to numbers and the important parts of real estate and stuff. You understand income properties and that the calculation. You're also like this like cool guy who works on his cars and like enjoys car culture and all that stuff, right? And you're a father, you've got kids, you hide books from your kids so that when they find him, they think they found something, and you got them to read this book, because if you just gave it to them, they wouldn't be reading it, right? So you do these cool things and stuff. And so I relate to you as a father, as someone who would, if I wasn't in the industry, I would relate to you because of your car culture, maybe your fatherhood and all that stuff. And then I'd cross over into relationship. The first time I would think of buying a house or an income property, I'd reach out to you first, right? So there's tons of power in that. And it's absolutely, absolutely important. Yes, a lot of people do it wrong. There's tons of videos out there that are even, they're funny, they're great. Does that translate into actual deals? Sometimes maybe you get, whatever, but it's more about getting views and all that stuff. And that's not the goal. Getting views and likes is not the goal. You've got to get engagement from your people. And because of the way deals are structured, sometimes it's just that one comment, that one lead. We're not looking for massive numbers. We're just looking for engagement and connection with people. And the big battle is always content. Like what don't fall for just producing content for the sake of producing content. Just put out good content when you can. I've been screwing around, messing around, doing stuff that, sorry, unrelated to real estate, right? But I'm spending more time putting together a quality product now because I enjoy it, right? And yes, it's getting more views, but way more engagement, way more conversations with people than it was in the past.
Yeah.
So it depends on what you do, but keep doing what you're doing.
Oh, well, thank you. No, I appreciate it. Yeah, with the content, it's constantly evolving. And the one question I always when I'm at a listing appointment and it comes up to this topic, I obsess over marketing. I absolutely love marketing. So for me, it's much more insightful to see what engages because I'm always thinking, how can I get a listing in front of as many people as possible? How can I pack my open house with as many people as possible? So that's ultimately where my love for content comes from. And the question I typically will ask at a listing presentation is when somebody asks about social media strategy and all this stuff, I'm like, well, let me ask you a question first. When you see an agent walking through a house and rubbing the countertop like everybody else does, right? Or they jump off something, like I ask them, I'm like, what do you think that does for your listing, if anything? Like, do you think this is good content? Is this what you expect? And this is a hill I'm willing to die on, but this is content that does not do anything for the client personally. I mean, I'm willing, if anybody disagrees, please let's talk about it. I feel it does nothing. It's great promotion for the realtor, and that is fine. And
Exactly.
it's the industry kept secret, right? But I always tell them, let's talk about the content that's going to get people in front of this house. And then I show them different content I've put out, and I do a lot of paid targeted ads. So for me, the big thing is I've learned from guys who've spent millions of dollars on Facebook and Instagram for paid targeted ads. And I always tell them, forget subscribers, forget followers. Here's what an engaging piece of paid targeted ad will do for your listing. And I'll show them. Here's like I have one example from last year that was really it was like a case study where I showed them here's how many different ads I ran, A/B tested a couple of different pictures entirely to fill up my open house. And then I showed them there were 7 open houses that weekend in that neighborhood, and mine was rammed. And I have video footage of just how many cars were outside, inside. Does everybody see it from social media? Not everybody, but social media definitely brought people into the house. And this is not free. This is not a TikTok I posted. This is not some of the stuff. In order to get in front of the right people, you have to put money behind it to get those 200,000 views, 300,000 views. That's usually what I aim for when I'm trying to pack an open house. I have one right now and I have the ads running as we speak right now, and the budget is big, but I'm trying to pack the open house, especially given how slow the market is. And I'm at a price point over 2 million bucks. So it's going to be tough, right? But you got to do everything. So this is where I think social media is fantastic. But like you said, I think it takes a long time to figure out how to use it. Making a post,
Yeah.
rubbing your hand on a countertop is like, I mean, I get it. You got to
Look,
start somewhere, but that's not what social
it's a
media is about.
skill. It's a skill like you have to learn all about online lead gen to do what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
And that's not easy. There's a lot of intricacies to that to do it well so that it's actually effective, right? Social media is the same way. You know, you can do both. You can do your targeted ad campaign and you know focus in on keywords and you can do that. And that's for your client. That's marketing for your client. And you should absolutely do that. But you can also do content to get more clients, right? You can
Yeah.
do both basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
One's
Shout
for
out to
clients,
Jordan.
one's
Yeah.
for, you know, for that specific client.
Jordan from Precondo is the one that he's like one of the gurus of Facebook when it comes to paid targeted ads. And I learned
Sure.
from him. And yeah, I will paid targeted ads on Facebook and Instagram are still to this day, I think, one of the best ways. But that's just one part of that's 20% of the work. The other side of it is I make 5,000, 4,000 calls per year annually,
Right.
right? Smile
Right.
and dial, right? And that's how you generate leads. But that's the part nobody talks about because nobody's going to do content about calling people, right? Like I have my headset right here. Like this thing cranks a lot of calls, right?
Yeah.
But that's the moneymaker, not the TikToks. But
And are you
that's
calling
enough.
people randomly, like cold
No,
calls, or
no,
are you're staying
no.
in touch
So
with people, right?
So this
From
is
your lead.
specifically I run downsizer leads because I work with a lot of
Right.
downsizers, and when they sign up, they want to get the 6 best condos for downsizing in Markham or Vaughan or Toronto. They request the list. We talk. Some are not looking to do it now. Some are looking to do it in a year, and
Hey,
that's how you
shouldn't you
keep the.
flip that script now and go for
Yeah,
upsizers given the market, right? Like this is the opportunity in this market, right?
you know what? It's I have tried both. I have
Yeah.
tried a bunch of them, and I have found, for me personally, sticking with one niche is probably the best. But you're right. Like if we're talking downsizers, I missed the boat. Downsizers, I should have been talking to them in 21. You know what I mean? When we were at peak prices, because everybody's looking to exit at the best, highest price possible.
Yeah.
Now everybody's waiting. Now it's like the upsizers' turn. But yeah, I don't know. There's something to be said about downsizers where you're selling a property, you're buying another property, there's no pre-approvals, there's no mortgages, much easier, but the timeline is much longer. These people may not be clients for 2 years. And I'm
Right.
okay with that, right? Like
Yeah.
I've been doing it now for so long that there's pipeline maturity, but
Absolutely.
definitely
And I
takes
mean,
time.
fair enough to what you're doing. I mean, yeah, downsizers, but you know, if they're downsizers that bought their house 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, doesn't matter, right? Like
Do
they've
you know?
made their money. They've made their money and they're downsizing into a condo that's depreciated quite a bit over the past couple of years, right? So it makes sense for them as well. I didn't mean to
Yeah.
like, you know.
No, no, you're right though. It is no, they are actually a tough nut to crack right now because they're
Yeah,
still, well, I could have gotten 2.1 from my house in 2021. Well, the house is
right,
now 1.16. So they
right.
can't come to terms with that. I'm like, listen, you can wait 10 years, maybe it will come back. Like it's
Yeah.
how long do you want to wait? Um, on a more depressing topic. So I was wondering, okay, I was wondering, um, again, because you have that vantage point, do you see you always see realtor burnout and fatigue. Do you see it more now?
Holy,
Like,
yeah.
And how does it manifest? Like, how are you
Absolutely.
seeing
Look,
it? Are people checking out, leaving the industry? What are you
yeah,
seeing?
yeah. Like, look, people are not okay, right? We're dealing with, we had COVID in 2020. We've got post-COVID inflation going on right now that's really messed up our economies across the world. There's wars, there's tariffs, there's Trump, there's all this noise out there, and people are not okay, and we see that. If you're in a leadership position, you absolutely see that. We see it as either it can be different ways, right? It can be someone getting upset too easily, flying off the handle too easily because they're frustrated. They're not closing that deal that they want to close. They're upset. They take it out on staff sometimes, right? And that's really, really frustrating for me. They are burnt out, and they're just when you're burnt out, you just don't do the things you should be doing to build up that business again, right? And so all of a sudden they're showing up at the office less. Now, I've had conversations with some of the agents where I, kind of detected that there was a little bit of a red flag, let's say, right? I try to re-engage them, try to pull them back in. There are, I mean, look, this is all solvable. Let's start with that. This is all solvable, right? Um, but it's important to recognize it. We're in an industry where, um, you know, agents are in this quiet crisis amongst themselves because they've been used to, oh, I'm number one, I'm number one, I'm number one. I've won all these awards, I win all these awards, and now that the market's turned, they're kind of like they're isolated, they're probably overextended on lines of credit, and they're ashamed to admit it. Right. So that all like that creates an issue, very like this quiet crisis in the industry. So the pressure to look successful has kind of turned into like performance anxiety when they're online and they're trying to do videos or they're trying to do stuff or whatever. It's tough out there. So if you're in a position of leadership, all of a sudden you get all this. And that's one way that it kind of displays itself. Another way, like you said, is like people are not coming to the office. They're not answering the phone, in a 9 to 5 basis. Right. So like, hey, what are you doing? Right. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is happening across the industry. Agents are going out there either finding something else to do entirely, and they'll come back when the market picks up again, or they are doing some kind of side hustle. They're trying to make money. And listen, hats off to them, right? Like you need money to live, right? Like you've got a mortgage, you've got kids, you've got, people to feed and all that stuff. You got to do what you got to do. There's no sort of judgment from me on that aspect of it. But it's also bringing out, the people that are willing to adapt, right? And they instead of being down about it, they're excited about it in the sense of, okay, I got to learn some new stuff. And oftentimes, when you restart a business, when you do something and you've been doing it the same way for years and years, there's excitement in that new system, in that evolution, and all of that, right? So those are the ones that are going to make it through. But also, it's the people that are willing to talk about the problems. The healthiest agents I know are the ones who admit business is slow. We need to talk more about sustainability, not just sales. And sustainability, I mean, the mental aspects of what's going on in our industry, I didn't do as many deals as I did last year. My line of credit is racked up, blah, 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 like all these problems and stuff. Um, but evolve from that and build systems that kind of like help your life, your whole life, serve your life, not just consume it, right? So there's excitement in creating all that again. And those are the agents that are going to do well. But it's listen, no lies, it's tough out there right now. It absolutely is tough out there. The most important part is to have a culture of being able to speak openly, being honest about it, and helping each other out, having a culture where people get together and it's not about, hey, I'm number one and all of that's from the past, right? That's part of the evolution of our industry. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, of course. It's that's part of the why I don't like social media because it's like I
Yeah.
log in and you follow some people because they asked you to follow them, and it's like, I don't want to follow you, but you don't want to unfollow because that causes more drama. So that now I'm stuck watching the content, and it's like I'm looking at the content, and I'm like I know what you're saying, right? I know you're lying, but I'm never gonna go and say anything because it's like none of my business. But it's like it kind of like that's why I don't want to look at social media, especially of other agents, because it's like most of it is just I don't know what to call it, but it's just nonsense, right? So when
Garbage?
you come, yeah, so when you see something half decent, authentic, it's like, okay, cool, I'll watch this. But most of it is just cringe. And I'm like, okay, I
Yeah.
can't. Or audience capture or whatever, or just clickbait, right? And it's anyway, it's kind of
I hear you.
infuriating because you're stuck, right? You're stuck watching it. But on a more positive note, so I want to hear from you from a brokerage side. So I know you're into technology. You enjoy the aspect
Yeah.
of technology. You're into AI. You're into all of the stuff, and you were into it years back, right? So you were already
Yeah.
talking about it. So I'm very interested to hear personally and with your brokerage what you guys are doing right now to kind of stand apart. Like how are you using AI maybe that other people are not, or how
Yeah.
people should consider using it. I'm very curious because I think that is going to make a difference. I don't know how big of a difference it will make. It's too early to tell, but I can see obviously there's opportunity. I mean, look, just be I mean, between me, you, and the YouTube audience, AI has absolutely changed my business when it comes to anything legal. It is so good. I'm thinking about the legal profession. I mean, obviously for higher end stuff, like okay, I went through a litigation case with a property I owned earlier. I couldn't use AI for that, but I did kind of sanity check a couple of things. It was great. But for your typical contracts, AI is phenomenal. So good at clauses, how to, different probabilities, different dispute resolution methods. Like it's incredible. So anyway, that's just like a little example from my end, but I'm curious to see how
Yeah,
you're using
absolutely.
it.
I use it for clauses as well. And like I used to write clauses for the agents. Well, I used to, I still do. Or for my own contracts. I used to for my own contracts. Now it's for the agents and stuff. But yeah, I have like a custom GPT that's my clause author now, right? So in terms of like whipping up something quickly, I'm able to do that, right? So in the past, it would take me, sometimes 15, 20 minutes to write a good clause, make sure everything was covered and whatever. Now it's instant, right? It's
Yeah.
absolutely instant. And it's doing it in the way that ARIA writes their standard clauses type of thing. So it's really familiar and it's really good that way, right? But that's just like one little use. There's like it can write copy for you, all the stuff, like but that's the low-hanging fruit, right? So, but it's a good example of the amount of time you can save from it. But let's just sort of like back up and understand it a little bit better. So I think the age, so AI is happening fast, and I think you said it's going to be the next, it's going to change things, it's going to change things over the next little while. So, no, it's happening right now. Like and that's what the struggle is, right? Like it's just happening so fast. I think it was Monday. I had a presentation to do on Tuesday about AI, and I was kind of like going through ideas and whatever. I had a title, right? But I hate to prepare for these things like a week or a month ahead of time because it's moving so fast. It changes, right? So I had a presentation to do on Tuesday. It was Monday, and I'm thinking, okay, what am I going to do? And every time I use it and use it well, it blows my mind. So I ended up teaching the agents how to use AI to basically create a custom and like for that specific house or neighborhood or whatever. They've got a listing presentation and they've got to go in and present to the seller. It created this custom sort of market update of that area, and it's incredible, amazing, and accurate, really, really accurate, which is important. And more importantly, so we pulled stats from Habistat. We stuck them into an AI to get an analysis going. Then we stuck them into another program to put it all together in a very powerful visual presentation. And that visual presentation was excellent because it it knew which points to hit, what was important to that seller, because we had told it we were presenting to a seller, right? And so it knew what the important points were, right? So all of a sudden, an agent has something that they can either send or, when they go see that seller, they can explain it to them and stuff, but it's all covered in a very visually powerful way, highlighting the high points. And I used to do that all the time, market updates. I know the amount of time it takes to put that together. Um, you know, I used to do these monthly market updates on video and stuff, and I had to like copy and paste the numbers from the market watch report, stick them into my individual Excel spreadsheet, then extend my pivot table, extend my the data from for the charts and stuff to include that row and stuff, so that then I can have this little line that goes up or down. I can talk about that, right? And that would take a while. That would take hours to do. And that was, I could only do Treb, the line that was Treb, or the line that was Vaughan, or the line that was, Toronto or whatever, condos, whatever. This was specific, detached homes in Vaughan, and you could do that for any area or type of home or whatever. And in 8 minutes, we were able to put together this fantastic product, right? And it's that kind of movement, that kind of like quick efficiency that all of a sudden, when you start using it, you're going to realize, holy crap, this is powerful. I'm using it well, and I'm able to actually get more leads, clients, transactions because I'm using it. So the agents, the winners are going to be the ones who are not only the ones who use AI, but it's the ones who actually integrate it on a daily basis into their strategy, their communications, their all that stuff. So there's so much about AI, right? And it is so, so powerful that unfortunately, the agents who aren't going to use it or who think that it's a fad or the brokerages that don't think it's useful because they don't understand it themselves are they're the ones who are going to be replaced by the agents who are actively using it. And we've gone beyond the point now already of using it for this one thing. No, you need to use it every day, integrate it into your life. It's not just about real estate, it's about everything. We were just having a discussion with one of my agents about an issue he had last night. Um, and like we can use AI to basically understand the psychology of this person. What kind of person are they? What are they going to respond to? How can I get my point across? Because my point is from my perspective. How can I get my point across to them based on their psychology, who they are, and all that stuff, to really get that point across in communication so that they understand it. And that's the difference between, doing it from experience, which has, 20, 30, 40% call it of a success rate versus having a very targeted, perfect response for that individual that then brings you to the 80, 90, 100% communication method, right? So it can do things better. There's a lot of caveats to it. You got to be careful with it, all that stuff. But holy crap, it is mind blowing. And that's the thing. You got to start using it. You cannot not use it. If you don't, you will be replaced.
So I have a more of a tangible question to ask you about
Sure.
AI. So from the examples you've said so far, am I clear in understanding that right now the big upside with AI is mostly from a time efficiency perspective, where we're taking tasks that took hours are now immediate? So, so is it fair to say most of the AI upside right now is in speed? Or because you did mention one, like trying to help understand how another person is gonna interact with you, how to get your point across. That one I'm interested in. But I just want to understand, like, if you
No,
can
it's
give
it's
like,
everything. Yeah, it's not just efficiency. Absolutely not. Don't get me. That was just an example I wanted to bring up
okay,
because
can
it
you
was
give
a
me more
powerful.
tangible examples? I'm just because I'm trying to, because I don't understand it as well as you do.
Sure,
So the speed one I understand because I think that's the low hanging
sure.
fruit, and I get that one.
Yeah,
But what else? Like for example, the example you said with trying to understand how to communicate with
yeah,
somebody.
yeah,
So
yeah.
how would you
So,
even do that? Like how? Okay, sorry, go on.
dude, it's amazing. It is incredible. Have you ever done any kind of like personality profile courses,
Yeah,
that kind of stuff? Right?
yeah.
Which one did you do? Do you remember?
Myers-Briggs, and then I did some other one. I think when
Right?
you're doing your CPA, you have to do like a bunch of
Fair
them.
enough.
So,
Right,
so I
exactly.
don't remember them at this point.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like, so yeah, Myers-Briggs, all the other ones are they're very robust. They're very technical. You got to learn them. You have to do it well. I throughout my career I've always used, I think I learned it from, I want to say Brian Buffini. I think it was one of these like coaches of real estate, but it was the colors, orange, blue, green, and gold, four different types of people, right? I'm an orange. I'm loud. I talk. I enjoy being in front of a room. The typical characteristics of an orange person. You're probably a green, which means you're analytical.
Yeah.
You're quick to, you know, if you're interviewing somebody, if they're loud and talking, oh yeah, I can do this, whatever, you probably like get turned off and it's like, no, I'm never hiring this person. Holy crap, he's annoying. Versus the person who shows up and gives you the numbers and shows you how that works and shows you how you can get success from the data, basically, right? You're analytical, that kind of stuff. So I would speak to you in a different way than I would speak to another orange person, right? But that's like, 20 years of experience, right? Versus, hey, Chat GPT or whatever AI you want to use. I've got a client who is resisting a price change on their listing. We've been priced at this for this long. I'm trying to get through to them that they don't understand. Ask me a couple questions so that I understand who they are as a person, what kind of personality they are, right? So then it shoots back at me. And I'm doing this in my GPT, for example, who already knows me and knows I understand the color profile. So there's a little bit of training involved, right? But all of a sudden, it asks me a few questions. When you got the listing and you interviewed them and you talked to them, what were they like in this, and for this, and this, right? So that basically it builds a little profile for them. Okay. And now it's like, okay, it sounds like they are a gold person, right? A gold personality profile. So now the response that you're trying to put together for them, either by voice or email or text message, here's one that actually will land with them, right? Again, if I'm telling you that I am, I need, hey, listen, buddy, we need to do a price reduction because your place isn't selling. Like, come on, look at all the other houses. They're all priced lower. You think yours is worth more because it's got gold faucets. Like, come on, we got to lower the price. You're going to be like, you know what? Go F yourself. Like, okay, you're fired. You're done. Versus a response that is like, listen, we've looked at, I've analyzed the market for you. We've been on the market for 36 days. We've gotten six showings in that time. In the meantime, here's the list of properties that sold around yours that are similar to yours. They were on the market for 21 days, whereas we're on, what did I say, 36 days, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, that answer, that response to you lands. So I'm assuming you're green, by the way. But that would land with you, right? So it's part of, the sales aspect of things. But if you can run it through AI, all of a sudden you're able to do that way better. So it's not just the efficiency of it, it's the actual wording, the language. I mean, that's what, ChatGPT is an LLM, large language model. That's what it's good at, language kind of thing, right? But it's also teaching you as the agent, right? What the color profiles are, how do I analyze somebody, what do I look for, what are those cues and stuff. So it's fantastic for learning, right? There's a study mode in ChatGPT where you can feed it information, ORIA forms, ORIA clauses, whatever, and it can teach you what that is, right?
Hmm.
So, and that's just ChatGPT. Then there's all the video stuff, the presentation stuff, it's way more than efficiency. It is quality. We're getting to, we had started training our brokerage in AI was it beginning of 24 or end of 20, whatever, call it 2024 last year. And we had a guy come in, Ron O'Neill, fantastic guy, taught us a bunch of stuff. And the one thing that I remember was like, it's going to output something. It's going to be 80% accurate. You're going to have to work 20% to make it good and make it accurate, make it yours, right? It's like 95.5 now. It's incredible how accurate, how good it is, but there's a lot of caveats, right? You still have to verify it, obviously. Like, don't get me wrong, right? But it's super, super powerful. So again, using it is the key because then you end up learning it.
Is there, and just the last question on AI, because I know it's a very broad topic. Have you guys discovered ways how you can use it for lead generation?
Yes. And you're not going to like this, but it is fantastic at that, especially for social media, right? Incredible in terms of the way that you talk on video. is the way you come up with a video idea, the concept of it, and the way you deliver it, the hook at the beginning and all that stuff. It's so, so good at that. And to
So you
actually
mean you use it like to script like the content? Is that what
script
you
or
mean?
bullet points. Sometimes it's full on script, sometimes it's bullets, but I've got a pattern that I follow, right? To get a reaction, to get something, so that that turns into an actual lead. People
Okay.
actually reach out. And that's,
Okay, I
listen,
see.
that's just me. I'm sure there's like 28 different ways to do it that are even way better, right? There's tons out there.
So yeah,
It's
okay.
like,
So I'm just trying to articulate it in my head so I understand it so it's not too broad. So basically you're using it kind of like as an idea generator, but also to make sure you have a hook, you have something
yep,
engaging so that it's not putting out content for the sake of putting content. There's intent
exactly.
behind it.
You know, you're
Okay.
doing the 30-day challenge, right?
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to come up
Very
with ideas.
hard.
It's yeah, I know, and it's frustrating, right? But I think you're doing it the right way in the sense that you're combining the things you like, right? Cars, all that stuff, right? You're talking personally, but you're relating it to real estate. And it's important. Look, we do real estate, yes, but we also like other stuff. And we want to be likable to other people. So we want to attract those people, right? That are into cars, that you can go out, show them homes, talk about cars, do all that, whatever, right? And that's how you connect with people. So it's important for us as agents to, yes, we do real estate and what? Like, what's that other thing that we like to do and we like to talk about and all that stuff, right? So that's my way. It's like powerful in creating those, those content ideas, the scripts, and all that stuff. You can also use it really, really well to draw out your AdWord campaigns, your Facebook campaigns, all that stuff, so that they become way, way more efficient. All of a sudden, the thing that the person clicks on and lands on your site before they put in their name and phone number, email, whatever, right, is will convert at a much, much higher rate because it already has all this knowledge of how to do that really, really
Yeah.
well. So your conversion rate on, on cold leads or people just going to your website and filling out the form, the sort of the industry standard is like, 1% your first year, 2 to 4% as you get more experience and better and stuff. Well, what if you can create content that's so specific to that individual? Content could just be a page, a landing page, whatever, but it's so specific to that individual that all of a sudden the conversion starts jumping up from like 2 to 4% to, 15, 10,
Yeah,
20%,
the
whatever,
con
right?
the content game is it's hard.
Yeah,
Yesterday I was going to make a video. The reason I'm not doing strictly real estate content is because it's hard. So for me, I just want to get through 30 days of actually making content, so it can be anything. For example, yesterday I went to a listing that I'm going to be bringing out probably around March, April of next year. Nice house, has a basketball court. Right now it's fall, leaves, all this stuff. So I went with my drone and I was going to make a video about why I'm taking pictures now while it's fall. It looks beautiful. Save them, post them when it's March. So we
right.
have some nice pictures to showcase the landscaping. So that was going to be the content. I show up, I fly the drone. I completely forgot how many trees and branches are everywhere. You couldn't see the house because there's leaves and trees. So what I had envisioned in my mind was a total flop. I could just get the basketball court. I hit my drone, it fell off a branch. Then the camera was crooked, so all my pictures are crooked. So I'm like,
But
I'm like,
that's a video. That's an awesome video.
that's
Here's what
true
I tried
too.
to do today. It
Yeah.
failed, but that was.
The whole thing was just an entire mess. And I was like, okay, I was supposed to have this video done. Now I'm running late for the next thing. And I'm like, what am I gonna do? So thankfully I had another appointment to I had to go pick up a log box. So I just made a video picking up the log box, talking about the two buildings where I just sold the unit. But
Right.
it's hard because the amount of bandwidth it takes in your head, like of dealing with this stuff. People think it's 2 minutes to make the video. Yeah, it's 2 minutes to make
No.
the video. It's 2 hours of mental anguish in here of like the nonsense and then the follow-up because now my TikTok screen time is up. Before it was 0 or 30 seconds, averaged out over the week. Now it's like 30 minutes because I find a raccoon crawling out of a garbage can somewhere downtown Toronto and I love it. And I watch it or I see some stand-up comedy and it's like, here we go, 30 minutes a day. And I'm like, damn it. Then I got to delete the
But
app.
that's it, right? You just need a system to put out that video quickly, right? So
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
at the point where you're right. Like I was spending so much time to do a video because then there was also the editing aspect after. You got to add captions, titles. The processing just took so long. But coming up with the idea took a long time as well. And sometimes I try to do it, without just kind of talking into the phone, and my message just wasn't getting across.
Yeah.
So AI is really, really powerful for that in organizing your thoughts so that you've got a valid message to say. You say it with a hook, a body, and a call to action at the end. You do that in a minute, and all of a sudden you see that, and then you throw it into something to edit it quickly, and all of a sudden you see, holy crap, this is good, this is powerful. It's quality content that will get. So final thoughts, like I mean, uh, I watched a video the other day, and it talked about tipping points, and it kind of that's how our industry is at a tipping point right now, and we are so focused on the negativity, the doom and gloom, and all that stuff, and it feels like collapse is happening, and people overuse that word. But we're just in the middle of a transition. I think that's where real estate is right now. We're transitioning, we're evolving. We're not watching the industry fall apart. We're watching it sort of shed what doesn't work anymore. The era of volume over value, of chasing deals instead of building trust, the important stuff. That's what was burning itself out, right? Those are the agents that are burnt out. But what's coming out of that is something better. Agents who actually educate instead of, pitch clients, brokerages that build systems instead of like slogans and all. We're so big on slogans in this industry. I freaking hate it. I hate it. I hate it. Like, let's do something that actually works for the clients, that helps the client. It's hard. It's absolutely hard. But that's what change looks like, right? It has to evolve into something better. Confusing, noisy, scary, all those things apply, right? But that's like 5 years from now, we'll look back and see at a moment where our profession actually grew up. It changed into something better, right? Like we started this conversation with you asking me what's different between 5, 10 years ago to now, right? It'll be interesting to see where we are 5 years from now, right? There's a lot of positivity of us growing up as a better industry. Um, Good brokerages aren't going to be the ones that just get the agents through the storm. They're going to be the ones that teach the agents how to understand the storm that's coming, read the weather, do all that, and most importantly, build community in the sense that, the stuff that we talked about, the psychology, the ability to be honest with each other, to have those good conversations together, even when the conversations are negative, to have the discipline and the purpose so people can actually thrive in that environment. Those are the brokerages that are going to do well. So yeah, it's going to be messy, but I think with a mess comes a new start, right? When you destroy everything, the house is all dirty, whatever, then you clean it all up and you move on from there. And I think what's coming for the industry is going to be smarter, more honest, more human people.
I appreciate all the insight, man. This is why I wanted to talk to you because I wanted to kind of understand where this is going because I think you guys are at the forefront of that. So thanks so much
This
for
was
all of
awesome.
your time and I appreciate it. I hope everybody else enjoyed it.
You're very, very welcome. Thanks for having me, Vas.
No problem.